Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Travel Startup Accelerator series towards a self-reliant India, organized by FICCI in collaboration with Startup Mentor Board. FICCI, as you are all aware of, has been promoting the cause of startups and innovation, as well as technology in the travel and tourism ecosystem in India. During the lockdown period, FICCI has been promoting a lot of webinars, a lot of reports and white papers were produced by FICCI. Some of the notable ones were the FICCI Grant Thornton Report on Tourism Scenario and Recommendation for Future. FICCI partnered with Google to conduct workshops for travel MSMEs to educate them on the power of digital tools to stay relevant during pandemic. FICCI also organized Tourism E-Conclave, which was inaugurated by Shri Singh Patel, Honorable Tourism Minister. And the idea for this Travel Startup Accelerator in collaboration with Startup Mentor Board was to encourage entrepreneurship and innovation in the space of travel and tourism, following the vision of Honorable Prime Minister Atmanirbhar Bharat. And the idea is also to promote entrepreneurship across the nook and corners of the country and see the next big unicorn coming out of a tier 3 and tier 4 town as well. So with that vision and idea, FICCI has started this initiative. We also reached out to a lot of startups during this initiative, and more than 30 startup elevator pitches were received, out of which 10 were selected. And during the later half of the day, we would also hear the pitches from these 10 startups and get to know about these amazing journeys which they have undertaken. So without further ado, I would like to request Shri Dilip Chenoy, Secretary General FICCI, to set the tone for today's session.
Thank you. Thank you, and a very good morning to all of you and to all the participants and viewers. Just hope that you are keeping well and keeping safe, and your families and all your employees and others in the organization also are keeping well and keeping safe. Srimati Rupinder Brar, Additional Director General, Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. Mr. Ashish Kumar, Co-Chairman, FICCI Travel Technology Committee and Thought Leader. Mr. Ankush Nijhavan, Co-Chairman, FICCI Travel Technology Committee and Co-Founder, TBO Group, Managing Director, Nijhavan Group. Ms. Roma Datta, Director, Travel, BFSI, Classifieds, Gaming, Telco and Payments from Google, India. And Mr. Karthik Sharma, Board Member, Startup Mentor Board. It's indeed a great pleasure to partner with Startup Mentor Board on this FICCI Travel Startup Accelerator series. I believe that it is important in this context because the startup as a concept actually challenges existing business models, existing thought processes, existing concepts, existing markets, existing service sectors, and many other existing notions, and brings in disruption and brings in a new way of growing that sector, a new way of taking this forward. In the COVID pandemic, it is very relevant that we are trying to identify the set of startups and others and help them actually accelerate and go to scale. It is said that it is neither the CTO, the CEO, or the Chief Information Officer who's driving change and digitization in the organization. Is actually COVID, which has really taken this forward. The future of travel, and in the immediate future and maybe in the medium and long term, will be very different. It takes more than a crystal ball at this point of time to be able to predict what it will look like. Every day is bringing new thoughts and new ideas. And therefore, when the Prime Minister said that we need to take this opportunity and the crisis that it seems to be and convert it into the opportunity and how we can see if we can become self-reliant. And in the context of the tourism industry and travel industry, how do we increase the confidence? How do we get the consumer back? How do we enable the consumption of the services that we offer? And do we actually create a new experience which is safe, secure, and creates a kind of a growth paradigm for the industry? I think this initiative with the Startup Mentor Board is very important. we'll like to see at the end of this series a new ecosystem by creating the new brand of local entrepreneur. I mean, if you just were to look at a different paradigm, if you were to look at India as the EU, then why should everything only happen in Delhi, Gurgaon, Bangalore? I mean, it's like saying that everything in EU will only happen in Germany, Italy, and maybe France or UK earlier when it was a part. There are so many other things, and all. If I take the EU example, how do we look at it and say that how do we create regional entrepreneurs, regional systems, and then look at kind of a single distribution base, and how do we actually enable everybody to come together and make the whole more than the sum of its parts. The earlier term of disruptors, which I also used earlier in my address, I think needs to now be seen in the light of collaborative collaboration or collective collaboration. In fact, this sector, whether it is the eating out sector, the takeaway sector, the room sector, has already seen some new entrants here and a conflict arising out of the existing players and the players who wanted to move on to the platform and then found that the equality in the system did not exist according to their standpoint. So these are the kind of things that we need to be able to address going forward. I just don't want to repeat what Fiki has done because you've heard it before. And I only want to just say two things, that what we do today will determine the future of tourism industry, not only in India, but in the world. It is not only going to impact us or impact this decade, I think it's going to impact generations as we go forward. And I wish all these startups all the very best. And I would like to commend the committee and the task force for doing such excellent work. Keep up the good work. And then we will see you maybe become a unicorn going forward. Thank you again, everybody, for participating, and a very warm welcome to all of you. And may I now hand over back to Karthik to take this forward.
Thank you, Dilip ji, for sharing your thoughts. And I think it's a very interesting analogy of taking cue from Europe in terms of setting up regional clusters, and also your thought on focusing on collaboration. I think that's the name of the game now going forward. Next, I would like to invite, essentially the man without which I think this initiative wouldn't have been possible in many ways, Shri Ashish Kumar, who is the co-chairman of FICCI Travel Technology Committee and thought leader. He has been instrumental in promoting the cause of startups in travel and tourism in India through his various initiatives like Coffee with Ashish. He's also the founding board member of Startup Mentor Board. I would like to now request you, Ashish ji, to please share the welcome address with the audience. Ashish ji, you are on mute.
Thank you, Karthik. Thank you, Mr. Shenoy. I wanted to make some brief points on the entire positioning of startups in the travel and tourism verticals in India. You have covered them already, some of them, Mr. Shenoy, but I'll make them nevertheless. The image of startups has always been garage-driven disruptors. And I think that position needs to, although they still remain that in many ways, but that position needs to be now changing. Somebody actually told me that startup is actually a state of mind. I'm a startup every day, which really means effectively is that you got to be thinking on your feet and you got to be innovative every day, whether you're an existing company, or you're a large enterprise, or you are what we are terming as startups. So that's my first statement. The second point I'm making is that I have somehow seen the startups in the travel and tourism vertical prior to COVID not meshing in exactly with the existing travel ecosystem. You've had startups who come in on their own, they put their valuation up, they exit. So therefore, the enterprise has been of build up and exit. And I do believe that the existing, at least during post-COVID time, I believed it even prior to that, that the existing transactional enterprises of the travel industry need to mesh in with the innovative startups to create a whole universe of travel together and not stand aside. So that's the second point. So collaborating forward into a transformation, collaborative partnership, what Mr. Shenoy said, is the need of the hour for startups as well as for existing companies. The second third point I make is that the travel startups have not found, although you still have Make My Trip and Yatra as a startup. Ankush here in Travel Boutique, I've known him from the time he started Travel Boutique. He's also a startup. But the startup haven't really found a place in the sun in the larger universe of startups. So therefore, when the government of India, when everybody talks about, you talk about education, you talk about pharmaceutical, you talk about manufacturing, but our age-old travel entrepreneurs are relegated to the background. I do hope they will find a spot in the sun. This industry has been dying to be recognized by the government of India as an industry. And I do hope our innovation and startups will actually make them sit up and take notice and be counted. So in the larger scheme of startups, travel startups should be in the forefront while driving the change in the country. Because travel itself is a large gamut of e-commerce. It itself is a large enterprise. I was yesterday, just to put it mildly, was talking to a startup who has positioned himself, and he's done a lot of work as AI pricing driven bus platform. So he's able to actually apply 250 algorithms between a drive between Goa and Bombay on the pricing per seat. So, you know, and where we talk about digitalizing the railways into a greater extent or the transportation, they are all part of the pipeline. And I think startups perhaps could be working with Government of India. They could be working with the existing entrepreneurs to actually put the entire supply pipeline in place. Lastly, I read with great interest, of course, that the AIF has created a pool of domestic capital and insurers, PE funds for investments in startup. And I do hope travel startups will be in forefront and be positioned in forefront to be where they are. So on that, I think it promises to be a great event. Lastly, my message to the travel industry at large is that if you want to save tourism, you first need to save yourself. You need to follow all the protocols. You need to make sure that you make others around you follow the protocols, because that is the most important thing to revive the safety factor in the travel and tourism, including, of course, our own society. So, gentlemen, be safe.
Thanks, Ashish ji, for those kind words. And I think talking about startups in travel and tourism ecosystem in India, I think no discussion on startups' success and celebrating their successes is complete without mentioning TBO and Ankush. Ankush Nijhawan, as all of us know very dearly, he's the co-chairman of FICCI Travel Technology Committee, co-founder of TBO Group, managing director Nijhawan Group. He's also an angel investor and is actually not only a startup, but also helps other startups by investing in them and mentoring them and advising them. I think he's one of the most celebrated, charismatic and admired entrepreneurs in the country, not only in travel, but I think in the overall internet ecosystem in India. So with this, a very warm welcome to you, Ankush, and I request you now for your special address.
Thanks, Karthik, for the humble introduction. Really humbled by hearing what you just said. To begin, I would, so I'm not wearing the TBO cap today, so I'll be talking about on FICCI's behalf. So I'd like to thank Mr. Chenoy, Anirban, Manish, and obviously my co-chairman, Ashish. And I think Mrs. Barar is not here, but love to thank her as well. And obviously Roma. Roma, thanks for your amazing session a couple of weeks back. So I think, one, I'm very excited to see this startup session, and I'm very happy that Ashish and FICCI took this initiative to have this kind of presentations today. I've seen the travel curve building in the last 15 years. And I must say, I must have met many talented entrepreneurs who are trying to build an amazing new, I would say, generation kind of travel company, be it B2B, B2E, or B2C. That's something which I leave it for the entrepreneurs to decide. But I've never seen anybody outshine in the last 5 years. The reason why is something which I don't want to bring it here, but there is immense talent. I think coaching, mentoring by all of us, be it us or be it the other large OTAs or Ashish or Vicky, will definitely help them to make the next large thing. I would say the large travel company doesn't need to be from Delhi and Mumbai. I'm sure there's talent even in tier 2 cities. I think COVID was a time when a lot of people had time to think great ideas, think about new age innovations, some robust technologies. And I'm sure now many of the startups who were there or the new ones which are thinking of coming in the travel space have actually rebooted themselves or would restart with fresh thinking, with new technologies to be ahead of the curve. I think all of us who were startups, as Ashish said in the beginning, I think are somewhere in the middle now, but fortunately in a good space right now going forward. I think COVID is behind us and I'm sure we'll come stronger in 2021. But there is immense opportunity. And I'm really waiting to see that awesome startup coming, who is probably 10 years younger to me, in age, who will actually make me feel and proud of, somebody came after what some of us created in early 2000s or late 2000 in last decade. So I'm happy to see these presentations today. And as an experienced Karthik, I have had a great run in my other investments as an angel investor, which is non-travel, because I can't be investing in travel companies directly in my personal capacity. It has to go through TBO. But I've seen those journeys, be it digital media, be it restaurants, etc. And I'm sure the same experience is something that I would love to share with all of you if I can. And I'm looking forward to the presentation this afternoon. We have a great panel of speakers. They have been great in building their own companies, be it the 7-8 names which I saw. They're all my friends. I think each of them is best in their own way to mentor these startups today and decide the winner or the best presentation. So, and I would also like to request the government. I think this is one area the government should definitely look at. And as Ashish said, the travel e-commerce is the biggest GMV/turnover driver for any of the e-commerce company, be it I don't want to name them, but it's not only just travel. I think that's something the government should definitely help when boosting these startups and this young talent, which are obviously trying to build great companies and hopefully a unicorn in the travel space again. Thank you, everyone. And I will be part of the session the whole day. Thank you, Vicky, once again. And thank you, Mr. Chinoy, for inviting me as well. Thanks, Karthik.
Thanks, Ankush. And I think just taking the discussion forward in terms of how, large companies can actually foster innovation and support the cause of startups. I think no company than Google is better known for doing that. Google has been doing a lot of initiatives, both in collaboration with Fiki and otherwise. They have Google for Startups program, Google for SMBs program, Google Cloud for Startups, and a host of other initiatives in terms of promoting not only travel and tourism, but at large, the startup ecosystem in India and also globally. And we are so lucky to have with us today Roma Datta Chaubeji, who is the Director Travel, BFSI, Classifieds, Gaming, Telco, and Payments, Google India. And apart from championing the cause of startups, she's also been a champion of women empowerment and getting more women into leadership and technology in India. So with this, a very warm welcome to you, Roma Datta ji. I would like to request you for your special address.
Thanks, Karthik, for those kind words. It's a real pleasure to be here today. This pandemic has impacted all of us, and we know travel the most. But there are many silver linings, and for me, one of the biggest silver lining is how the entire travel industry has come together. And one example is what we are here for today. So I want to start by congratulating Fiki, Startup Mentor Board, everybody involved in bringing the startups in travel together for some innovation, inspiration, learning from each other. So this is a great initiative. Absolute pleasure to be here. For me, the kind of collaboration that we have witnessed in the last 4-5 months it's really promising. It makes us believe that as things get normal, as things start coming back, we'll be far more stronger as an industry, and we'll be able to leverage the new trends that will come our way. So The couple of minutes that I have with you all today, I would want to focus it, make it a more forward-looking conversation. I really want to talk about the promising signs that we are seeing in travel as an industry. So, recently there was a survey that we did in APAC, and one of the results was that one traveler out of every two travelers is very, very eager to travel, right? So there's a lot of pent-up demand that we see, whether it is in, and I'm right now just talking about APAC, but will be true for global markets as well, that people are researching, they're trying to find the destinations that they would want to travel as things get better. And there's this whole concept of revenge travel, that which I think a lot of us have heard about and spoken about, and for me it seems real. I'm myself trying to allocate budgets. Definitely my interests have moved from jewelry to travel. As things get normal, I would want to invest disproportionately in travel and exploring. To that, I really have just three key messages for all of you as startups. The first one is really that we and in Google we get to kind of see what consumers are searching for, so have some sense of how the trends are changing. And there is a tremendous shift, right? Not just in travel but across industry. COVID has made us think differently. So there's amazing amount of change that's happening around us. And the first point would be to keep the consumer front and center and understand the consumer and how his needs are changing. How is the consumer looking at changing or adapting to the new, how would they want to travel and how would they want to experience travel? So that will be really, really important. So the first point is really to take note of what's happening around us. Think about which are some of these consumer changes that will stick, which are some of them which might fade away, which are some of the new ones that will come as we move towards some form of normalcy. So it'll be important for the startups to reinvent, reimagine, and be relevant, keeping the consumer front and center. So that's really the first message. Representing Google, I can't avoid talking about digitalization. That's really been our uber goal throughout. And clearly across industries and even in travel, what we would have accomplished in terms of digital adoption in, say, next 3-4 years, we have accomplished that in last 3-4 months. It's amazing to see how consumers of all age groups, women from tier 2 cities, and beyond, have adopted to digital so easily. Are so comfortable transacting online, so comfortable researching online and things like that. So my second point to all the startups on the call would be to, truly leverage digitalization. I'm sure all of us understand it, all of us see the impact of it around us. But then I just feel that all of us don't see the opportunity or headroom for digitalization, not just in terms of user experience, getting your users online, but across every aspect of your business. So to build profitable businesses, how do you make your supply chain better, and so on and so forth. So it has a massive role to play in building strong, profitable businesses, and do leverage digital like never before as you look ahead and plan your business. And the third thing would be that all of us are talking about being Atmanirbhar, and that's really, really important and critical. Having said that, another silver lining is that markets are coming out of this crisis in different shapes and forms, right? So even if we look at APAC and we look at a few markets there, New Zealand or say South Korea or China, they're almost close to coming to normal. Obviously international travel is not happening, but domestic is happening. Things are changing differently there. Then there are markets like, say, Japan, Australia, Thailand, which is like in transition, moving towards normalcy. And then of course we have markets like India, Philippines, where we are still struggling a lot with COVID. Why I'm talking about this market is that there could be learnings from these markets. I know India is a different market, and even in Google there are a lot of India first products that we have built, but there's no harm in seeking inspiration from other markets, looking at how they are evolving, and both learning from their mistakes, learning from their wins, and adopting it quickly to your businesses. So those were my three messages for the startups on the call. Wish you the best. Like Dilip ji, Ashish, Ankush spoke about unicorns from this space. I really believe we will definitely see some, and looking forward to that. And also, when I speak about digitalization, I also feel it's a great leveler. It really brings all of us on. It's equal opportunity. It's a level playing field in many ways. So I'm going to say that message again. Build on it. And of course, please stay safe. Continue to take a lot of precautions yourself and for people around you, and have a super festive season ahead. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Roma. And I think we all agree that digitalization is a great leveler. And I think that's where also now the role of government comes in. And I think even Ankush was mentioning about it. And I think government has been in the last few months working relentlessly, although many of us have resorted to work from home. But government, folks do not have that option. And most of them have been working tirelessly, in their offices during the entire lockdown period. And under the aegis of whether you call Startup India, Digital India, or even Make in India initiative or Atmanirbhar Bharat, the tourism ministry has been coming out with a lot of initiative during the last few months. Recently, Ministry of Tourism celebrated the World Tourism Day for the first time in a completely virtual mode, and Sathi app was launched, as many of you would know. UNWTO has designated this year as the Year of Tourism and Rural Development. The ministry has been also organizing a lot of webinars under the overall theme of Dekho Apna Desh, TAD, which many of you are aware of, showcasing the diverse culture, heritage, destinations, and tourism products in the country. The almost 54 webinars, I am told, were conducted during the webinar during the lockdown by the ministry. And to create mass awareness, the ministry also launched an online Dekho Apna Desh pledge and quiz on the mygov.in platform. An incredible India Tourist Facilitators IITF certification program was also launched. So as you can see, the things are moving even in the government, and they have been taking a lot of initiatives and embracing digitalization. And I'm sure we'll get to know a lot more about some of these initiatives by our chief guest today, Srimati Rupinder Barar, who is the Additional Director General, Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. Unfortunately, she's busy in one of these many initiatives, I'm sure, which is going to help us. And she'll join us at 11:30 a.m. with her thought leadership session. So she'll be here with us soon. In the meantime, I would request Ashish Kumar to present the vote of thanks to our inaugural session members, and then we'll move on to the plenary session one. So over to you, Ashish.
Thank you. And that's the easiest part with a vote of thank. You need to thank people. And that aside, and jokes aside, I really do thank that you're putting your shoulder, all of you here on the panel, and all of you who will come in after this in the day, and some of you who haven't had the opportunity. I must tell you, although there have been 34 startups who registered and 10 were shortlisted, etc., I had at least 3 or 4 call me separately and said, we missed the bus. Is there a possibility to register now? I said, don't worry, there'll be more such sessions going on. So that only speaks for the enthusiasm, not only for what's been created here, but the community at large. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining in, and the viewers for joining in today. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashish. So we'll move on to plenary session one then.
That's at 11:30 we join.
11:30, yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Roma, Ankush, Dilip.